the important part is like with any like recruiters or people who are in recruiting ops or people ops, they're looking at once they have built these automations, how effective their recruitment funnel is, right? So first part is measuring what their pipeline looks like, and then the second part is how efficient their pipeline is, the health of their pipeline, right? Where things are stalled, is it the conversion is going up from one stage to the another, right? Is it an issue with the interview process? Is it an issue with the quality of leads that come in? Is it an issue with how should I call it, like in terms of us not getting back to the candidate, right? The response times. So is the time to hire too long? So how can we, or which are the most effective sources of the candidates? So usually, like again, because there's greenhouse, it's another 2 or 3 steps for me to get this information as a recruiter. But is there an easy way for that information to be delivered to me via email, Slack, or wherever I want to consume it?
Yeah, so we can actually help to create charts and pieces of reports on demand as necessary. You can get them from anywhere. In this case, I'll actually show you how you can get them from Slack. So if I head back to Slack and go to TalentBot, I'll show you how you can use some custom commands. So not only do you get all these inbound messages that you're seeing, you can also do something like type help. You know, if you know a command, or if you just want to naturally type it in as a message and try to get that action done, that works as well. But if you type in help, then you get this list of applications that we work with. I know that I'm trying to get these reports from Greenhouse, so I just say help Greenhouse. And it says, here you go. I can either show report by clicking here, or I can use the shortcut, which is to do a / and say show report. Here I'll choose a department. So let's say we just want all departments and we want a report type of a recruitment funnel, which is exactly what you mentioned. And we can compare that against, say, 2 months. So it's this month and the previous month. So we submit, and that will generate a new chart. So in this case, we have a funnel going down from 100% of application reviews from the previous month and the current month down to the shortlist. So in the previous month, we had 100% application reviews going down to 55% at the interview stage, which looks okay, but it's actually 7% at the shortlist. So perhaps the recruiter could have done better looking for the correct candidates and screening them properly. And we can see here that in this current month, the recruiter has actually done just that. So even though the number of interviews has decreased from 100% to 50% rather than the 55, we're actually keeping a quarter of the application reviews. So the recruiter's actually done a great job. So that's one example. And we can show some other stuff here as well. So let's say we choose product and engineering, and we do an activity log. So what's been happening over the past month? And we do it like this. We'll see an activity log report for candidate activity. This is just a way for us to monitor and make sure that everybody's going through the pipeline. We're not just getting something stuck halfway through. So some candidates are advancing, some are rejected, some are interviewed, and there are some new candidates as well. And finally, let's say that we choose all departments again. We'll go to recruiting sources, and let's say we do that for the past month. Then this time we see that we have all of the inbound sources of our candidates, some are referrals and so forth, but the largest chunk that we get is still from LinkedIn in this demo. So that's how you might access it. But you can really get this from any application you need to, even if it's email or something like that. I'll just show you how we can do that. So let me get rid of this real quick. What I've done is triggered from a workbot command. So workbot, new command. And there's a way to fill this out where you say, in this case, it was greenhouse show reports. So that's basically what I would type out. And I know I'm speeding through this a little bit, but essentially this is what we're doing in the background. And then we accept some input for this command. So in this case, we'll say report type, for example. And there are other things here that we can fill out, but for now, I'll just show you that basically this is the idea. And then you fill in a hint. So after that, every time somebody invokes this command, it says show report, that's when this recipe triggers. So what would have happened is we would have gone into Greenhouse, searched for the kind of information that we want, like candidates and so on. And then we create a chart. So there are different ways to do this. One way to do it is just do it with charts by Workato. And whether it's columns or pies, it's basically the same kind of stuff. You have two axes, and just so that we can illustrate this, in a spreadsheet, this is generally what it would look like. So you have names and values, right? In a real life scenario, this would be like LinkedIn has 59%, and then new row for each one of these different parts of the graph. So we request that from our various applications, and then we put that into the recipe like this. In this case, we should be getting these parts as data pills, so something that looks like this. But for now, just as a way to explain what's happening, I'll show you that this is roughly what you would be filling in, or this is roughly what information would be coming from the previous actions. So you generate a chart, and at the end, you go back to Workbot for Slack, and you post a command reply. So in the same way that it's invoked by a command, you use a reply to that command. And then somewhere in here, basically what's happening is we're just attaching an image. So there is another place in here to put an image to show up differently, but just as a way to show you how it works, I just put in the chart URL from step 2, which is generate column chart, put it into the message, and then when somebody types in this command or presses the button, we get this interactivity and the corresponding report comes back.
Nice, Kyle. Kyle, we have a couple of questions.
Sure.
One is like in the demo we showed that a user actually has to go and request that report, right? But is there a way for the report to be delivered on a particular schedule, like say Monday morning, there's a review meeting at 9 a.m. I want this report to be delivered in a specific channel for my team, like every Monday morning at 9 a.m. That's doable, I would think.
Yeah, in fact, it's in some ways actually easier than creating this workbot command. So there are different applications that you can trigger off of. But let's say that you're just doing this off of Monday morning, so new scheduled event advanced. The difference between these two options is just that this first one, which is not advanced, is like every 5 minutes or something like that.
Okay.
Whereas this one, yeah.
So what you showed was on demand when the user needs it. This is a scheduled version that's completely doable. The second part, the second question is we showed how to use the built-in charting capability within Workato, but there are these third-party services that are available as well that provide fancy charts, right? So
Totally.
how does Workato support those?
Well, it depends on the kind of service that you're talking about, but oftentimes if they're integrated as you usually do, they have some API that's exposed. You can basically do it like this. Okay. If the native connector is supported, you just type in the name of the connector, generate the chart, it's the same stuff. If you need to and you want to go like more advanced on this kind of stuff, then you could use our custom HTTP action or our SDK and create another connector, which is actually not too difficult. So those are some ways to do it. I'll show you one more way that's actually much more intuitive, which is that, in here I said that I was just basically putting a chart URL, right? A lot of these third-party applications that we've mentioned or that we're referring to allow us to put in the URL without doing anything else. So we just put in a URL and then out comes the chart. And the way that that happens is that I'll actually show you this from one example application. So I have used quickchart.io for this example. And it's free. All you're really doing is setting a link. So this thing that you see here, sorry, this part that I'm highlighting is a URL, and you just change the parts of the URL and it spits out a different graph. So as long as you have the data, like a summary of the data that you want to present in chart form, you pass that off to whatever application through, say, a URL, and then it comes back as an image.
Okay.